Introduction to Codependency. Codependency can seriously impact your life as well as the lives of those around you. While this situation can be complex, the root of codependency is becoming so addicted to another person that you feel the need to control them or you allow their behavior to affect you. In taking ownership of another person's problems, someone who is codependent may obtain their own sense of well-being from managing the behaviors of the other person. The situation can become so severe that the person actually begins to focus their entire lives on the person they believe they are trying to help. Such relationships can become particularly dangerous when they involve two people who are intimately involved with one another. The results of such behavior can be serious and devastating. Someone who is codependent may increasingly tolerate behavior that is completely unacceptable. They may deny the severity of their own personal damage. They might begin to compensate their own personal values and may also experience a decline in their physical, mental, and spiritual health. Sadly, in many cases, persons who are codependent may not even realize they are actually enabling. They may believe they are doing the right thing, but often experience guilt because their efforts have simply not been enough to bring about change in the other person. They might also feel as though it's their fault, or as if they have done something to cause the other person to lose control. They often believe that if they simply tried harder, they could make the other person change. Codependency is a pain-filled and devastating cycle. Individuals involved in this type of relationship frequently experience fear and shame, but feel as though they are completely alone. They may make poor personal decisions, including developing addictions of their own. While the path to recovery from codependency can be long and difficult, it is possible to heal. Chapter 1. Understanding the nature of codependency. Codependency is a condition which has become increasingly common in recent years. It has become particularly problematic as the rate of chemical addiction around the world has increased. This condition can become so severe, it can often affect one's sense of identity and relationships, as well as spiritual growth. The term codependency was originally used in order to describe the patterns associated with behaving and thinking that was portrayed by the spouses and children of individuals who are addicted to alcohol and/or drugs. During the last decade or so, the term codependency has now taken on a much broader application. The characteristics of codependency. Like most conditions, there is often a very predictable set of characteristics that is presented with codependency. The symptoms associated with codependency tend to be the same as for many other addictions. The difference is that while most other addictions become focused on drugs, alcohol, sex, or gambling, a codependent will become focused on other people, usually one particular person. The characteristics of codependency include external reference. A codependent will focus on other people as the source of their pain or happiness. Controlling behavior. Due to the fact that other people are responsible for the happiness of the codependent, or at least so they believe, the codependent will attempt to influence the other person or persons to act in a way they approve of. They may utilize a variety of strategies to achieve this goal, such as enabling or caretaking behavior. This involves doing for others what they should really do for themselves, usually taking over the responsibility for others and sometimes even lying for the other person. People-pleasing behavior. This usually involves doing what the other person wants or likes, often even when the codependent does not wish to or when it goes against their own personal values. Approval seeking. This often involves saying or doing anything that will impress the other person in an effort to gain their approval. Can often involve being dishonest or exaggerating. Criticizing or nagging. When the other person can be influenced or changed through other strategies, the codependent may seek to change them or influence them through disapproval or shame. Emotional pain. A codependent is often afraid of losing the person or persons upon whom they have become focused. They may begin to feel guilty about some of their behaviors. In addition, they may feel resentful, angry, or hurt. There may be a sense of failure or inadequacy because they often feel rejected. Furthermore, there is often a strong sense of loneliness. Defense system. Rather than only expressing the pain they feel, a codependent will often distort their pain through a variety of strategies that are intended to minimize the severity of the problem. They may minimize or even deny they have a problem, or they may attack anyone who questions them. They might also blame others or attempt to rationalize and justify the situation. Consequently, they receive no release from the emotional pain they are experiencing and continue to develop guilt, fear, resentment, and shame. They may resort to various addictions, such as drugs, alcohol, food, etc., in an effort to cope with their pain. Delusional beliefs. Codependents often believe that the relationship in which they are involved is really not that bad, or they may think that it will improve. For instance, when a codependent is involved with an abuser, they may think to themselves, he or she really means it this time. Even after they have been abused and the other person says it won't happen again, they often believe they will eventually be able to achieve success in controlling the behavior of the other person, frequently through a combination of people-pleasing, enabling, and other types of behaviors. Loss of self or identity. It is not uncommon for a codependent to lose their own sense of self or identity as a result of focusing on others. They may compromise their own values. As a result of this loss, they begin to focus even more intently on trying to obtain what they need from others, such as self-esteem, love, etc. The martyr. In an effort to obtain some degree of self-worth, a codependent will sometimes even begin to see themselves as a martyr or victim. They may utilize self-pity as a method for easing the pain they feel. One of the most frequent questions that many people have about codependency is why someone would allow themselves to become involved in such an unhealthy relationship, and why do they not simply stand up for themselves? The truth of the matter is that no one ever expects or intends to become an addict of any type. The very nature of addiction is insidious, and it can easily sneak up on the least suspecting person. In addition, codependency usually progresses slowly. As a result, someone can become codependent over a long period of time and not even realize it until they are already into the situation quite deep. Codependency and addiction. It was once believed that if an addict simply gained control of their addiction, then others around them would be fine, including their spouses and children. It was not until the late 1930s that Alcoholics Anonymous was founded, and it quickly became realized that even when an addict did gain control of their addiction, that their family members were not fine as expected. Quite frequently, family members would remain resentful. They frequently worried about the addict relapsing. Over a period of time, it became apparent that the family members of addicts needed help for themselves of a similar nature than addicts were obtaining through AA. It was at this time that support groups for family members of addicts rose to prominence. The need for such support groups is directly related to the codependency that often arises from addiction. Although recovery can be quite complex,